Watch live. You see ground level footage and from Sky 7. Our Dan Noyes has been literally right in the thick of it, right along the police line, and he's back with us now. Dan, again, we've seen a few more skirmishes.
Dan, it definitely has escalated some, I've got to say. When you're just feet away from a flashbang grenade, it'll get your attention. That's just what happened a few seconds ago. You can see a guy on the ground here. Oh, we got to clear out a little bit. You see there's another flashbang grenade. They are definitely, the police are escalating their response. They are taking more extreme measures to clear the protesters away. The protesters have picked up some of the tear gas or throwing it back at the police, going back and forth. I can say now, they're throwing tear gas in all different directions, over my head, down the street. The protesters are taking the tear gas canisters and throwing them back at the police officers. That is the sound of a flashbang grenade. That will do a very good job of clearing it out. You've got, you have a group of probably 10 protesters who are just standing strong, arms up, right in front of the police. But again, the tear gas is flowing. The flashbang grenades are going off. They're firing rubber bullets. And I recognize one of their weapons. It's an FN 303, which is a riot gun that fires a plastic projectile with metal pellets inside of it. The police have just taken much more action to clear this out, and it is working. My eyes are now burning from the tear gas.
No,
wow.
Sorry, Dan. I've had that happen to me before. It's no fun.
Yeah.
Don't rub your eyes. It makes it worse, as you know.
Yeah. But it's interesting because they aren't just going out at the protesters right in front of them. They are firing off to the side over our heads as well. They are now moving forward, as you can see, I assume from Sky 7. We're now moving past Santa Clara Street and 5th Street. The protesters are on the run. They are backing up. The police are doing a good job of clearing it out. The tear gas has done the job. The flashbang grenades have done the job. And those projectiles have done the job.
Dan, is it your sense that they might be moving with a little more urgency to try to get people to disperse before nightfall?
That's a good call, I would think. Yes, I mean, but it does look, I mean, the sun is well up. I mean, we've got, at least another hour and a half before the sun sets. So we have a while to go here. And I tell you, this is not doing a lot to calm down the crowd. The crowd is still adamant about being here. They're just moving. From what I'm seeing on the ground, I don't expect them to fully disperse. They are moving away, but I don't think that they're going to fully disperse. In fact, I mean, these actions by the police are definitely inflaming the crowd, as you might expect. But again, it is making them disperse. You know, one scene I just have to convey. Just a few minutes ago, I saw a woman about 5 feet away from the police, and we kind of locked eyes, and she just looked like any other mom from the suburbs. She didn't have a mask on, and I kind of motioned to her to cover up her face, and she kind of smiled, and then she put on her mask. A second later, she was knocked over when a police officer took his baton and pushed over a man on a bicycle. The man on the bicycle knocked her over. The police went to the ground on top of the woman and the man. And so it's just interesting. You share a smile with someone, and the next minute they're on the ground with the police on top of them. So this is what's playing out right now. Again, you have a distance of about a football field between the police and the bulk of the protesters, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 protesters who are standing strong right in front with their hands up just 10 feet away from the police. So this drama continues to play out here, Dan and Kristen.
Yeah, it's interesting to know why police made a sudden decision to take more aggressive action and move out in different directions to try to disperse the crowd. What was the tipping point that led to that decision? But you can see on the split screen from the ground on the left, you can see protesters and police intermingled at times. On the right, you can see a larger picture live from Sky 7 of the numbers that we're talking about, several hundred people on the streets of San Jose still. A protest that has now gone on for almost 5 hours.
Oh, hey, Dan. We finally get to see you.
Oh, there we see you, Dan, on the left. We've got you.
I'm glad to see you're well and safe with your mask.
So, guys, I just want to talk about a little bit about what may have been the tipping point. Whoa!
Whoa.
That's a
fireworks.
That's a serious flashbang grenade. Oh, damn. Unfortunately, there was a guy who was right at the location of the flashbang going off. He is kind of doubled over. He's got a scooter. It looks like he's going to try to walk away, but boy,
that was loud.
It would be really kind of it was a miracle if that young guy didn't get injured by that. I mean, it went off right at him. But I was going to say that what seemed to have set off this latest push is that some of the protesters were getting a little bit more aggressive in confronting the police up close. Some threw some bottles, some plastic bottles with water in them. So I think the police sensed that the protesters were getting a little bit more aggressive, and so they felt that they had to respond, and they responded with some serious force.
Yeah, you know, Dan, this is not particularly pertinent at this moment, but it's in the context of the time we're in. I notice a lot of face masks, yours included. Good job. A lot of people wearing face masks. Of course, social distancing not too much in force during this time, but I do see a lot of people wearing face masks.
You know, absolutely, and you know, and I'm doing my best to stay away from people as much as possible. Dan, I don't know if you can see this now, but there are protesters who are taking newspaper stands.
Yes, I was seeing
parked a car.
It's like a barricade.
Oh, the police are firing on them right now.
Yes.
The police are firing. They're firing the projectiles. Now, these are not live rounds, but they're firing those projectiles at the people who have taken a car. And it looks like it's whoa! It looks like it's a car that they have outfitted before. There is a protest sign on the back of it. But the protesters parked that car there, and they brought some newspaper stands to try to make a blockade. This is just before 4th Street on Santa Clara Street. There's some protesters who are ducking behind that car. Boy, the driver's getting out. I saw some of the projectiles going through the passenger side window, and that driver has now cleared from the car. This is going to be an issue. The protesters are trying to make their stand right here. They're now putting other trash cans there. And clearly the police are not going to let that stand for very long, I would imagine, Dan.
Dan,
No, I wouldn't think so.
for me, this evokes, I'm a musical theater fan, and I can't help but think of Les Miserables when you see a barricade go up like that, a blockade that people throw up. And it does worry me, Dan, because that tells me they are prepared for more serious back and forth and need that barricade to stay behind. What else are they bringing over? Let's see, they've got newspaper stands. What else do you see, Dan?
Right, they have some newspaper stands. There's trash cans, and that car is the main impediment, obviously. And I see a couple of protesters that are ducking behind that vehicle, pretty close. They're hiding directly behind that. Oh, I'm looking at now at the other side. That the vehicle definitely was set up for the protest. There are protest signs on this side, which is away from the police officers. But I tell you, that is the place you don't want to be, behind that vehicle. This afternoon, the fire from the rubber bullets and the flashbangs are typically going straight down the street, generally. So that is really the center of the danger zone in terms of being a protester. If you want to take a rubber bullet, it's going to be right in front of where the police are.
Right.
And now there are more people who are gathering behind that car. And boy, I don't want to see how this plays out.
No, and you run the risk of getting hit in the face by one of those rubber bullets or the eye. It can be very dangerous, as you've pointed out, Dan. And it's interesting. What we don't know are these people that we're looking at now with the car. Were they part of that protest on Highway 101 earlier? Are these other protesters that come in, as we've seen so often in the Bay Area, come in and join protests and escalate deliberately with police?
Well, it seems to me, Dan, that these people were prepared. Now, I don't know whether they were out there on 101 earlier, but that car was definitely part of the protest. They prepared to be part of the protest. And I'm trying to get a little close to see what's written on the vehicle, but I'm not gonna chance it. I'm not gonna get that close.
No, don't.
But they definitely were prepared. And boy, there are people just standing up right in the line of fire of those, projectiles. And I just, boy, I just don't get it. And I got to say, Dan, that you make a good point again about watching out for your eyesight, for your eyes, and some of those projectiles were missing well high of the protesters. They were over their heads, and so typically you are supposed to be firing at someone's midsection or below
to sting them, but not injure them.
At least
Dan,
exactly right.
They just brought in another piece of, is that a dumpster? Something they just pushed in for their barricade, for their blockade, which seems to be very heavy duty, that they're uprighting right there.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's actually some sort of a fixture. Looks like it's a display cabinet or a refrigerator.
Oh.
From my vantage point,
Yeah,
it's got a glass front on it. It looks like it's got a cooling unit on top of it.
I think you're right, Dan.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, don't go away, and we're going to keep showing what's happening there in San Jose, but we also want to take our viewers briefly to Oakland because a protest is about to start there, and people